Okay. Again, welcome to this session. This session is about a higher order construct and assessment of higher order construct in using PLS-SEM and SmartPLS software. Probably all of you are familiar with the higher order construct, and you may use higher order construct, second order or third order construct in your framework and in your study. Today, I will try to cover and discuss different types of higher order construct and what's the difference between different types of higher order and how actually we can create second order, third order, or in general higher order construct in PLS, and how we can assess it. Actually, when we use the higher order construct or second order construct, it's some for situation that in our framework and model, we have a latent variable with some dimension in simple word. So if our latent variable, our construct, includes some dimension, and our framework include this type of construct and variable, so we have a higher order construct. Actually, we use higher order construct to reduce complexity of our model sometime, and actually to create a parsimony framework and model, and make easier to deal with our framework. But it's not a correct way to apply higher order construct only to reduce complexity and abstraction of our framework. Actually, for higher order, to include higher order construct in our framework, we need a theoretical support for our construct in first place. So we need to support our construct and dimension of each construct, higher order construct, based on measurement theory. It means based on literature, we need to have a strong support that, for example, if we want to include perceived value in our framework, we need to support from the literature that perceived value includes, for example, 3-dimension functional value, social value, and emotional value. And we need this type of justification. And this type of justification is support from measurement theory. We need to support to justify this dimension, this dimension, explain and actually define this higher order construct, and justify this dimension of higher order construct based on literature. So this is the first thing that we need to consider when we want to include higher order construct. So it's not possible only because of abstraction of our framework. We combine some variable, we combine some construct, and come out with a higher order construct. So it's not possible. We need to have theoretical support for dimensions of a higher order construct to create a higher order. Second point that we need to consider when our framework is included the higher order construct is our objective. Actually, when we create higher order construct, we miss relationship between first order and other construct in our framework. If we create perceived value with 3 dimensions, functional value, emotional value, and social value. So in a structural level, only we can assess effect and or relationship between perceived value and satisfaction. For example, if our dependent variable or endogenous variable is satisfaction, loyalty. So only if we create perceived value as a second order construct or higher order construct, only we can assess relationship and effect of perceived value on satisfaction, not dimensions of perceived value on satisfaction. So based on objective of our study, we have to decide which one we need. We need relationship and effect of dimensions of second order or higher order construct to be assessed on endogenous variable, or in a structural level, only our objective refer to relationship between higher order construct and endogenous variable and other variables in our framework. So we have to decide about this based on our objective. If our objective is to test, to examine relationship between dimensions and other variable, so there is no any point to create higher order. We have to keep first order construct because we need the relationship between first order. We need relationship between dimensions and other variables. But if we decide to create higher order, it means we miss relationship between dimensions and other variables. So actually, based on our objective, we don't need this relationship. So at the beginning, to include higher order construct to our framework and model, we need to decide and make sure about these 2 points. One, we need to support from measurement of higher order construct, measurement of our variable and dimension of this variable, this second order construct or higher order construct based on literature. So we need measurement theory for this higher order construct. And then we have to decide based on our objective. What is the objective of our study? What relationship, what effect is important, and we need to examine. If we decide to create higher order, it means we don't have relationship between dimensions and other variable in a structural level, right? So this is actually from a theoretical perspective, measurement or a structural theoretical perspective, we need to consider this and then decide to create higher order construct. Okay, when we decide to create higher order construct, especially in PLS, because PLS is not possible to have a construct without any item. When we say higher order construct means we measure this construct based on some dimensions. If you look at this figure here, HOC here, for example, perceived value measured by 3 dimensions. So it means we measure perceived value, we establish and measure perceived value based on some dimensions, and these dimensions are measured based on some observed items, right? So when we have higher order construct, it means we don't have observed item, we don't have observed indicators that directly measure higher order construct. Higher order construct are measured based on some dimensions and indirectly by observed items, right? So But in actually PLS, to create any variable, any construct, we need at least one. Item. So what should we do for a higher order construct in PLS? Later we will discuss this one. There are some methods for this issue, right? But before that, it's good to review different types of higher order construct, here second order construct, that can happen in our framework. The first type of higher order construct, better to say second order, and one of the common type of second order construct is reflective. This is based on a study of Ringlet, all 2012. Actually, they categorize different types of second order construct in 4 categories. So the first one is reflective. Reflective means our first order construct, our dimensions are reflective construct. And dimensions are measured reflectively by some items, right? Here we have 3 dimensions, and these 3 dimensions are measured based on reflective items. And these 3 dimensions together reflectively create higher order construct, right? So you can see the arrow, the direction of arrow from higher order to lower order construct, from second order to first order construct. And the direction of arrow is from construct to item, right? So this is in second level, we have reflective items, but actually we have reflective first order or lower order construct. And these reflective first order construct reflectively create higher order or second order. So this is a type 1 or first type of the higher order construct. And this is one of the common type of higher order construct. Second type is reflective formative. Means items reflectively create first order construct. So you can see the direction of arrow is from construct to observed item. And but for second level, for higher level, 3 dimensions formatively create higher order construct. So this is second or type 2 of second order construct. And this type is reflective formative, right? This is most common type of second order construct. And here you can see in this study, they review 25 models, 25 papers, and 13 out of 25 were this type, reflective formative. And it's actually when we look at the different dimension and different types of second order construct, actually when we create second order means that we have some dimension that measure a phenomena from different aspects, right? When we say perceived value with 3 dimensions, means functional value, emotional, and social value are measuring perceived value from 3 different perspectives. So when we say from 3 different perspectives, it means these 3 dimensions are 3 different angles. So supposed to be formative, supposed to be composite. So you can see in most of studies, Most of papers review in this article, 13 are this type of second order, reflective formative. Another type of second order is formative reflective. Here you can see only one paper out of 25 in this study was this type. But actually, I'm not sure about also this one study, because it's not common and it's very rare to have formative reflective. Why? Because when we say first order is formative, means these items are not high correlated. These items measure different aspects of LOC1. And also these items measure different aspects of LOC2 and LOC3. So it's a question how these three dimensions, that each dimension measured by some formative items, how these dimensions can be reflective and represent whole meaning of construct and be high correlated. So should not be possible. Also in this study, you can see this is very rare to have formative reflective second order construct. And type 4 is formative. Also this one is common in the literature. So when we have formative construct in first level, and also we have formative, these dimensions formatively create second order. So we have formative construct. So this is four common types of higher order construct. But it doesn't mean that there is not any other type of higher order construct. In the literature, there is a lack of study that actually it's possible to have different types of construct in first level, and these construct together create higher order. There's a lack of study on this one, but logically it's possible to have. Actually, we published a paper in 2016. And let me show you this paper. Okay, we published this paper in 2016 in Journal of Hospitality and Tourism Management. Actually, in this paper, we try to conceptualize perceived value as a third order construct. And here, these three functional value, emotional value, and social value formatively create perceived value. But these dimensions have different nature. Functional value in this study is a second order reflective formative, and emotional value is reflective, and social value is first order reflective construct. So these three dimensions together formatively create perceived value. So and in this paper, actually, we presented a method to create this type of higher order construct. But actually, we don't have a large number of literature that apply this type of higher order or second order or third order construct. And the majority of literature only they presented these 4 types of construct. Reflective, formative. Formative, reflective is very rare, and formative. But actually, this area to think at how we can create, and it's possible to create this type of higher order construct or not. Okay, let's go back to slide. I know some of you have questions, but let me answer the question at the end. Okay, there are some approach to create to assess higher order construct. There are 2 main approach to assess higher order construct. One approach that is very common and the traditional approach to assess higher order, to establish and to assess higher order construct, is repeated indicator approach. And this approach is very common, but this approach has some limitation, some major limitation. Another approach is a 2-stage approach. But in 2-stage approach, also literature presented 2 different types of 2-stage approaches. So I will review these 2 approach and will show you how we can perform, how we can establish higher order construct based on these 2 approach, and what's the benefit, advantages and disadvantages of each approach. But here, there is a very good paper written by Becker in 2012 and his colleague. And actually, he discussed some feature of this paper, and he discussed some feature about reflective formative construct. And they did a simulation for different approach for reflective formative construct, and provided some suggestions. For example, based on their simulation, they suggested that if we want to apply repeated indicator approach for reflective formative or for formative, it's better to have, for repeated indicator approach, it's better to have mode B for repeated indicators. But it's a bit different with the actually previous literature, because in previous literature, in the first method for repeated indicator, if you look at these 4 types, this is indicators or item that will repeat in higher order level. This method is repeated indicator. So we, to create higher order construct, we repeat all items of dimensions or first order on higher order construct. Here you can see we have 3 dimensions, and these 3 dimensions, we have some items to measure these 3 dimensions, right? So we repeated all these items, observed item in higher order level, right? So, but in the literature, say if nature of dimensions, first order construct, first order latent variables, are reflective, so repeated indicators on higher order will be reflective, or mode A. The PLS, we called reflective items also mode A, right? So literature suggested to repeat indicator in mode A. This is also for reflective formative. So for reflective formatives, Items, observed item in first level in dimensions are reflective. So regardless of reflective or formative nature of higher or the second level, we'll repeat indicators on higher order in reflective way, consistent with dimensions, right? And for formative reflective or formative, we repeat dimensions on mode B or formative way. So this is a traditional understanding and traditional practice for repeated indicator. But Becker and his colleague in their work, actually after the simulation, they suggested to use mode B for repeated indicator of a formative higher order. Formative higher order. It means for reflective formative and formative is better to use mode B if we want to apply repeated indicator. So this is one of the suggestion of this paper, Becker's paper, for second order construct using repeated indicator. Also, they suggested based on their simulation, they suggested two-stage approach, that this two-stage approach is more useful than repeated indicator in different situations, especially when we have formative higher order. When we have formative higher order endogenous construct, if we apply repeated indicator, so it means in endogenous construct, we have three variables. Actually, these are three dimension of Y2, but in the framework act as a three variable that affect on Y2. And Y2 are measured based on items of these three dimensions. Means means the variance of Y2 explained by only these three dimensions, right? So the effect of any other variable on this endogenous construct will be zero. So repeated indicator approach has a lot of limitation. And recent literature don't suggest to use repeated indicator. If we want to use repeated indicator, we need to be careful, and we need to consider some steps when we apply it. I will show you these steps that we actually want to apply repeated indicator. But they suggested to recent literature suggests to apply two-stage approach instead of repeated indicator because of these limitation of repeated indicator approach. Okay, this is a very good paper, recently published in Australian Marketing Journal by Marco Zarset and his colleague. And in this paper, actually they discuss different types of higher order construct and how actually we can assess these different types of higher order construct, but they focus on only two main types of higher order, and reflective, and reflective formative. And they suggested some actually approach for different method for creating higher order construct and assessment of higher order construct. So this is a good paper that you can follow, and you can go through and read and use for your if you have higher order construct. Okay, let's go through software and see how we can create higher order construct in SmartPLS, and actually what's the two main approach for creating an assessment of a higher order construct in SmartPLS. Okay, this is the framework that last week we created for assessment of measurement model and structural model, right? Okay. We actually, we want to add one construct to this framework, and these three variables, perceived economic impact, perceived social impact, and perceived environmental impact, in this framework are dimensions of perceived impact, right? So we want to create the second order construct, including these three dimensions, and see the effect of this second order on support for tourism. So we need to create another variable, and this new variable is support. Okay. Drag and drop on support and hide these dimensions. Okay. Okay. So these three dimensions actually, these three dimensions are, these three constructs are dimensions of perceived value, right? Now, I want to create higher order construct, but using repeated indicator approach. To create higher order construct, so our construct is perceived impact. Right, and let me delete all this relationship. We use this framework that we have, but when we want to create higher order constructs, so we don't have okay. So our framework is the effect of community attachment, economic gain, environmental attitude, and cultural attitude on perceived value. And perceived value is a higher order construct. So we want to create higher order, this higher order construct, and see the effect of these four variables on perceived value and perceived value on support. So we have this relationship. Okay, but still our framework is red and our construct are red because of two reasons. One, we don't have relationship between these three and perceived value. And another one, perceived value doesn't have any items. So we need to solve this issue, right? First, let's assume these three dimensions create perceived value actually these second order construct is reflective. These three already are reflective. So to create a reflective construct, we need to connect second order to dimensions, right? But this perceived value still is red because doesn't have any items. So we need to assign some items to this perceived value. Following repeated indicator approach, to establish second order, we repeat all items of these three dimension on perceived value, right? So here we have dimension of economic, social, and environmental impact, and drag and drop all these items on perceived value. So these items now establish perceived value as a construct. But these items come from dimensions, first order. We put this item, observed item, in a reflective way, right? The reflective way. Because these three dimensions are reflective dimensions. And our second order is reflective, right? So let me hide this item. When we want to hide the item, just need to right click on a construct and go to this option to hide indicators of selected construct. Okay. So now we have this higher order construct, and we apply repeated indicator approach to create this higher order construct, right? So this is the first way for creating second order construct in our model. But what now we need to do? Okay, we need to calculate PLS algorithm, and now we have a result of measurement model and a structural model in this for this framework. Okay, but actually there are some critical point here when we apply repeated indicators. First, when we have a higher order construct, we need to assess measurement model and a structural model of, we need to assess measurement model of all first order construct in first stage, right? So it means if we have perceived impact construct, impact construct as a second order, we need to assess measurement model of all variable involved in our framework and dimension of this perceived value, perceived economic impact, social, and environmental impact. When we run our framework, when we run analysis, here we have result for outer loading for assessment of reflective construct. We assess, we need to check loading, and we need to check construct reliability and convergence validity using AVE. And also we need to check discriminant validity. But discriminant validity for what? Discriminant validity and reliability and validity for only first order construct, dimensions of second order, and other first order construct. So we can see the result here, and based on the result here, we can assess all first order construct, measurement model of all first order construct, right? But here, if we look at construct reliability, for perceived impact also we have these data. We have this result for second order. But the result of second order using repeated indicator is not valid result. So we cannot use these criteria for assessment of second order construct, for assessment of perceived impact. Because actually the perceived impact, composite reliability, rho A and AVE of perceived impact, because perceived impact is reflective. We have reflective, should be calculated based on these three indicators, because perceived value has three indicators, not these items. Only we put repeated indicators to establish this higher order construct. But framework now, when we run analysis, these criteria are calculated based on these items, and it's not correct. If we want to apply repeated indicator for assessment of measurement model of second order, we have to calculate all criteria, including CR, rho A, AVE, and discriminant validity manually, based on for second order reflective, based on loading of these, actually this relationship between construct and dimension here is loading, right? It's similar to loading of these three indicators for perceived value. So based on this loading, we have to check and calculate all criteria manually for perceived value. And these criteria here for perceived value are not acceptable criteria, because these criteria are not calculated based on these three indicators of perceived value, are calculated based on repeated indicators, right? So this is one problem when we apply repeated indicator. And the main problem, when we apply repeated indicator, for reflective, we need to calculate all criteria manually for second order construct. But for first order and other indicators in our framework, we can use these results. Another problem and limitation of repeated indicator happen when we have reflective formative or formative construct. Okay, let me change this perceived value. Now we have reflective. Let me change to reflective formative. Okay, so I delete this arrow because I want to change the so now I consider these three constructs, these three dimensions as a formative indicators of perceived value. And also literature support this one, because when we say perceived value from three different perspectives, from perceived impact, from economic perspective, from social and environmental perspective, actually these three perspectives represent three aspects of perceived impact. And these three aspects together form perceived impact. So it's supposed to be formative, or better, it's better to say it's supposed to be composite. Because when we create perceived impact by these three, dimensions, this perceived impact is error-free, right? Because we know in the literature, only we have these three types of impact, that these three types of impact together create perceived value. So we don't have any other variable, any other dimensions, any other items that can be added to perceived impact. So this perceived impact is error-free. So it's better to say it's composite, because composite, if you remember, composite construct is a formative construct without any error, without any missing items. Right? Okay. So here now we have reflective, formative. These three dimensions are reflective and formatively establish perceived impact. So let's run the analysis and see what happens. Okay, you can see the relationship. The relationship of all other constructs on perceived value is 0. The path coefficients are 0. Why? Because perceived value here, the variance of perceived value, total variance of perceived value are explained by these three variables. Because actually the items to measure perceived value come from these three dimensions. And when we have reflective formative construct, the R square of second order endogenous construct will be 1. And the effect of any other variable on second order will be 0. So this is another big problem and limitation of repeated indicator. Repeated indicator. So if we apply this type of approach for reflective formative or formative second order, we cannot get any relationship in our framework. Right? So because of these limitations, and even if you want to apply formative higher order construct, repeated indicator approach for formative higher order, you need to again this relationship consider this effect consider weight, right? This effect consider weight. So you need to check weight, significance of weight, and VIF based on this relationship, not based on actually the quality criteria that you get from result of PLS, right? But the main problem for this type of second order is 0 path coefficient and 0 effect of other variable on endogenous formative second order. Okay, so but this is a repeated indicator. Still for reflective you can stick to repeated indicator, but if you want to use repeated indicator, you have to calculate manually measurement criteria for second order. So again, I repeat, in first stage, we need to assess measurement model for all variables, including dimensions of second order, and other involved variable in our framework. And then you need to assess measurement model of second order. Measurement model of second order, but if you apply a repeated indicator, you have to calculate manually. Okay. So because of this limitation, literature suggests two-stage approach. We have two different two-stage approaches for creating an assessment of second order. A disjoint approach and embedded approach. Literature actually used these two different approaches for creating an assessment of second order construct. Based on my experience, I prefer disjoint approach. And also Becker in their work in 2012 suggested this disjoint approach. Right? But I will show you how these two approaches work and what's the differences between these two approaches. Okay. For example, for same framework, perceived value is second order reflective formative. But we want to apply two-stage approach. But first, embedded two-stage approach. Okay. So if we want to apply embedded two-stage approach, the process so far is exactly same as repeated indicator. So we need to create higher order construct based on items of based on repeated indicators. So we create model like this. But we don't assess framework based on the result of this stage. Only we run analysis to get the score of latent variable. So when we run analysis for this model, including second order, we have result here, right? So based on this result, we can get the latent variable score for all variable in our framework, including dimensions and other first order construct. Okay, if you click on latent variable, here you can see a score of latent variable for all first order construct. Okay, you need to click on, you need to use these latent variable score for second stage. Actually, now we are in first stage. So click on Excel format and just now copy and can you see my Excel file? No, okay. Okay, stop sharing. Now you can see. Okay. So when you copy the score of latent variable here, you need to go to your Excel file. This is my Excel file, the Excel file that for this framework, right? So I paste a score of latent variable at the end of this Excel file. So paste, and here now I have a score of all construct involved in my framework, right? So delete this one, don't want. So I have a community attachment, cultural attitude, economic gain, environmental attitude, perceive the economic impact, perceive the social impact, environmental impact, and also perceived value, right? This is perceived impact. I don't want this one. So just keep score of all latent variables. Score of all latent variables, and save this file as a new data set. So save as, this data set is my data set, including LV scores. So now I have a new data set, and this data set includes the latent variable scores from first stage, right? So now I'm going to my model. In my model, now I need to import new data set to use for my framework. So right click and import new data. Import data file. Based on using this option, we can import new data file to use for our framework. So click on import data file, and here okay, here I have data set for webinars, LV score, including LV scores. So click on this one, data set for with the LV scores. So now I have new data set here, and this new data set includes all score from latent variable scores from first stage, right? Okay, now I'm going to my model, and in this new model, okay, let me duplicate my model. Okay, if sometimes you want to keep your model, but still you want to use this model for another analysis, it's good to use this option. You can duplicate your framework, and here the name of this new one is second order. Okay, so now I have two different pad models. So I'm going to a second one, and the second one I change my framework. Now I'm using to embedded to a stage, right? In embedded to a stage, when we get the latent variable score from first stage, we need to assign a score to all construct instead of observed items. Delete dimensions, because I have already the score of all dimensions, and delete items of all other construct. So in new model, I use score of latent variable for each construct. For example, for community attachment only, I have one item. For cultural attitude, for economic gain, for environmental attitude. But for perceived value, I have 3 observed items. And for support, I have 1 item. So now we have a new framework, new model with latent variable scores. But second order construct include 3 indicators, and these 3 indicators are indicators from first stage. A score of 3 latent first order and 3 dimensions. Now we can run and here you can see now we have pad coefficient. Now we have pad coefficient, and we can assess second order now based on quality criteria here. For example, for this one, but for all first order construct, because only we put one single items, all criteria are 1. Just you can see the criteria, quality criteria for perceived impact, for ROE, composite reliability, alpha, and the AVE, right? And also for discriminant validity, you can see the result of heterotrait, monotrait here, based on perceived impact based on the latent variable scores. So you can use this criteria for assessment of model in this second stage. But actually, if you apply this method and use latent variable scores for all construct involved in our framework, in second stage, only you can assess second order construct, measurement model of second order construct. And it's not possible to assess measurement model of other construct because we already put only 1 score in latent variable, right? If we change this one to formative, okay, to change a construct from reflective to formative or vice versa, need to right click and switch between formative and reflective. Now we have a formative here. So if we run again, here we can get real value of relationship. You remember last time using repeated indicator, all these pad coefficient were 0. But now we can get, and we can assess measurement model of formative construct based on outer weight and based on VIF. Okay, so this is embedded 2-stage. But also we have this joint 2-stage. Let me show you also this joint 2-stage and can go for questions if you have any questions. Okay, I again go back to the this framework that we created based on repeated indicator, right? But for this joint 2-stage approach, in first stage we don't create second order. We don't create second order. So let me delete second order for first stage. What we do in this approach, without second order, we actually connect first orders based on the position, based on the location of first order in our framework. So in this joint, in this approach, we consider these three construct, and we connect all antecedents to these three, and this dimension to endogenous construct. So here we don't have second order construct, only we have dimensions, and we connect antecedent to dimensions and dimensions to DV or endogenous variable, right? So based on this, so in first stage, we don't include second order, and run analysis, and same as embedded approach, get latent variable score from here, and again come to this data set, delete this one from previous data, but only in this approach, only we keep latent variable score of dimensions. We are not supposed to work with other latent variable scores. So only we need perceived economic, perceived social, and perceived environmental impact. So delete other scores, and also support. So we have only new three indicators, and we will use these three indicators for second stage. So let's save this file, latent variable score 2. Okay, so again come here and import this new data set, latent variable score 2. So now we have this new data set, including score of 3 dimensions of higher order construct. So go to our framework and delete these 3 dimensions. Okay. And create latent second order. Rename perceived impact. Okay. Now this perceived impact construct is created by only 3 indicators. A score of perceived economic, environmental, and social are indicators of perceived impact. So now connect antecedent to this new second order, and this second order to DV. So now we actually created this second order using disjoint approach, and this second order now only has 3 indicators, and these 3 indicators are a score of dimension of this construct, and all other constructs remain the same. So if we show all indicators, now we have all indicators for other construct, and this second order just established by 3 by score of 3 dimensions. So now we can can calculate the criteria, and now we have this result. Now we have this result. So if the second order is reflective, so we need to apply criteria for assessment of second order, like reliability and validity criteria, convergent validity criteria. And also we can easily get the criteria from the result and assess discriminant validity. If construct is reflective formative, here only we need to change the direction of arrow to construct. So change, switch to formative, and again run. So here we have real hat coefficient, not zero hat coefficient. So we can assess the measurement model and then assess a structural model based on this approach easily. And actually software provide all criteria that we need for assessment of measurement model and structural model. You can see between these two approaches, between embedded and disjoint approaches, two-stage approach. Based on my experience, always I prefer disjoint approach, because in two different stages. In first stage, we have the result for assessment of all first order construct. And in second stage, we have the result to assessment of second order with other first order. So we need to actually check this result, and especially discriminant validity of second order in relation to other construct in all frame. So I try to cover these three main approaches. Now we can go for a question. Let me go through. Maybe some of them I already answered. In embedded two-stage approach, can we only replace latent variable scores? Yes, we can. But actually, if we only replace latent variable scores, this will be very similar to disjoint, with one difference, that in first stage, we create the second order using repeated indicator, but and this is difference with the disjoint. And in disjoint, we don't create the second order in first stage, but it's possible. But literature actually suggested to use only score for latent variable score for all construct, but statistically it's possible to do. Okay. What about a structural model evaluation through this? Actually, a structural model evaluation is only after you complete assessment of measurement model. So when you have the second order construct, you need to assess all first order together before creating second order or without second order. Then in second stage, you need to assess measurement model of second order with the rest of first orders in your framework. And then you can go for assessment of a structural model. One common mistake, sometimes I saw some paper that for assessment of, for relationship between dimensions and second order, some study hypothesize this relationship. When we hypothesize this relationship means we look at a structural relationship. Hypothesis is for a structural relationship, for a structural model. But second order is only in measurement level. So we cannot hypothesize the relationship between dimension and second order, right? For second order, still we are in measurement level. We need to complete measurement model assessment, first order and second order, and then we assess a structural model for relationship between second order and other variables in our model. Can I ask through voice? Yes, you can.
Hi, Prof. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, yes.
My question is that if we are using a disjoint two-stage approach, uh, do we have to report all the things using measurement model, like if construct is reflective in nature? So in the first step, do we need to report all the things in the measurement model, and then in the second stage, all the things like if it is reflective in nature, we have to report outer loadings, AV, composite reliability, discriminant validity for the first order
Yes,
construct.
yes.
Similarly, we have to report all these things for second order construct while reporting measurement model. Is it right?
Yes, but except for lower order construct of second order, dimension of second order. In second stage, we don't report criteria for dimensions of second order, but we need to report second order and the measurement model of all other constructs. Because actually the loading PLS, the criteria are calculated based on nomenological network. So loading might be changed when we include the second order. This is one thing. Another thing, actually criteria might be changed. And another thing, you need to check, it's very important, discriminant validity of second order and other construct. So you didn't do in first stage, because in first stage you don't have the second order, right? So this discriminant validity should be assessed in second stage. So you need to report all criteria.
Okay, so you are proposing that in for first order construct, will report everything except discriminant validity, and while
No,
reporting measurement
discriminant
model for
validity
second
also,
order construct, you will report everything.
discriminant validity also should be reported in first stage. But discriminant validity in first stage is between dimension of second order and the rest of construct. But in
Right.
first stage is for second order and other construct.
Okay, okay, got your
Is it
point.
clear?
Got your point.
Okay.
Yes, I've got other questions. Do I get to ask other time, or I can ask right now?
If related to the today topic, yes, you can.
Yes, okay. While using SmartPLS software, do we need to set mod A, mod B if your arrow directions are clear? Like, or is we set automatically it will do the working?
It depends on your setting. For here in okay, if you right click on each construct, sorry, if you double click on each construct, here you can see indicator weighting mode, right? If you set on automatic, based on the direction of arrow, software realize mode A or mode B and apply mode A or mode B, mode A for reflective and mode B for formative. But if you, for example, your construct is formative, but still you want to apply mode A for estimation of parameters, here you can change. Okay, you can change. And so here you can see this construct we mentioned
Mod A.
mode A, right? For example, for this one, this is second order,
Mod.
right? And this
Yes.
second order is now formative. but we want to apply mode A for estimation of parameters. We need to double click and choose mode A instead of automatic. So if you click, so you can see A here. It means even this construct is formative, but mode A will be used for estimation of criteria. Right?
Right. Just last thing, I'm taking others' time. Can you allow me to email you? I'm facing a problem regarding the operationalization of a higher order construct, and that paper relates to tourism. Can you allow me to share that thing, and you can advise me through email because I'm taking other people time right now, and that
Okay.
question specifically relates to higher order constructs.
No problem. Can send.
Okay, I'll
Uh,
email you. Okay,
Okay.
okay.
thank you very much.
Any other
Prof,
question?
yeah, Prof, I have one question regarding this discriminant validity, just connecting to the previous question. Once, just as the way you suggested that we need to report discriminant validity at the first stage, including all the dimension, like and as well as the first order construct into the model. At the same time, we need to report discriminant validity at the second stage. That means we need to report two discriminant table, is it?
Yes, yes.
Okay, Prof, my question regarding once we are reporting discriminant validity at the first stage with the dimension and the first, the first order construct. So dimension, if these are reflectively measured, that reflectively measured dimension should be highly correlated. So if we report discriminant validity of HTMT, the HTMT correlation should be very high, even should be like, it can be more than 0.90. So how should we tackle this situation?
So you mean that the correlation between dimensions, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. If your construct is your second order is reflective, and you actually report discriminant validity, and you detect discriminant validity problem for dimension of your second order, actually this should not be, because this can happen only for reflective second order. So if you face this problem, based on my understanding and experience, you can ignore this problem, right? And go ahead to create second order. Assessment of discriminant validity between dimensions and other construct is because of because of correlation and collinearity between dimensions and other variables in our framework, right? Not between dimension of second order construct.
Yeah. Now even let's say
what happened if we don't check discriminant validity in first stage? Let's say you have a reflective construct, right? And your reflective construct second order has 3 dimensions. One of the dimension of second order has a discriminant validity problem with other variables, right? You don't assess this in first stage and go to second stage. What will happen in second stage? In second stage, when you establish second order, perhaps you will get high collinearity and discriminant validity problem between your second order construct and one specific variable, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what you need to do here, you need to go back to your framework, you need to go back to your construct is second order, and look at where is this high collinearity, where is this high correlation? And to solve this one, perhaps you need to delete one dimension. And this could happen this could be solved if in first stage you look at and you detect this high correlation and discriminant validity problem, and by removing one item, only one item from these two constructs, you can solve this problem. But this but in next stage, in second stage, is not possible.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
got
Got your point. Just to get more clear. For example, in regards to this model, perceived impact, it has three dimensions: economic, and social, and other one is what?
Environmental.
Yes.
Yeah. So if let's say since if these are measured through reflective, so the correlation between these three dimensions will be very high, because if we conceptualize is as a reflective. So, and there is a high probability that the correlation or HTML correlation value will be very high, even it could be more than 0.90. So, how do we tackle this one?
Yeah, I explained that if you just detect high, you have reflective, and only you detect high correlation between these three dimensions, you can ignore this problem.
Okay, yeah.
This should not, probably should not be any problem when you create second order. But if you detect, for example, a high correlation and discriminant validity between perceived economic impact and community attachment, this should be solved in first stage. And if you go to second stage without solving this problem, perhaps you will detect discriminant validity issue between perceived impact and community attachment. And it's not possible to solve in second stage.
Yes, Prof. Yeah, I got your point. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prof.
Prof, there's one point.
Hello.
Any other question?
Prof. Yes,
yeah, Prof. Muhammad.
Can raise your hand, so I can see.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay, no problem. Any question?
Hello. Yes, Prof.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi. Well done, Prof, for the wonderful presentation. Hello, Prof. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me, Prof?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. So I just want to ask for more explanation on the justification for the use of second order. When you start the presentation, you might mention two reasons why someone will conceptualize high order construct. The first one is on the issue of literature support.
Yes.
Yeah, and the second one, you talk about the issue of the objectives of the study.
Yeah, actually these two are intercorrelated, because based on your objective, you need also support from the literature to conceptualize a second order.
Okay, yes, sir. So what I just want to ask further is that, can someone hypothesize between the second order and the lower order, or maybe the dimensions?
Pardon?
What I said is that, can someone hypothesize a relationship between the dimensions of the second order construct?
Yes, it's based on your objective. But if you hypothesize a relationship between dimensions and other variables, you have not to create second order.
Okay.
Right? Because based on your objective, you need to test, you need to examine hypotheses for the relationship between dimensions and other variables. Right? So, but if you create second order, you miss this hypothesis. So it's not possible to assess these hypotheses if you create second order.
Okay. Noted, Prof. Noted. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Well.
Prof, there's a question.
Yes.
Is it possible to get the HTMT inference scores for the second order constructs when we use the two-stage approach?
HTMT what?
HTMT inference.
Yeah, confidence interval. You means confidence interval or significance of HTMT?
Sure.
Yes, it's possible to get. But it depends on what method, what approach you use. Repeated indicator, no.
In two-stage.
Yeah, but in two-stage, yes, you can get. In two-stage, for example, for this one, you can get all criteria that when you apply first order, you can get. So it's possible to get all these criteria for second order also.
The second question is...
okay, let me show you. Okay, when we run model, here we can get only HTMT and report HTMT. But if you want the significance of HTMT or confidence interval for HTMT, you need to run bootstrapping. And in bootstrapping, we have two options: basic and complete bootstrapping. You have to choose complete bootstrapping. So when you choose complete bootstrapping, the result, you can get the result of significance for all estimated criteria. So if you click on, just I put 500 because it can finish. Okay, so here you can get significance level for all these criteria here in HTMT. So you can get, for example, bias corrected, lower and higher level for HTMT of these dimensions to get cultural attitude and community attachment, because HTMT is for two construct, right? So this is higher, lower and higher confidence interval. And what's the interpretation of this confidence interval for HTMT? If one is not included between lower and higher level, so we can establish discriminant validity. So here you can see one is not included between lower and higher level of all these HTMT values.
Prof, can you share screen?
Oh, you cannot see my screen?
Yes, that's the problem.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Please let me. Now we can see.
Can you repeat the things you were explaining earlier?
Again.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
Calculate. If you click on PLS algorithm, only you can get discriminant validity here. The value of discriminant validity between these different constructs, right? But if you want confidence interval, you need to run bootstrapping. And in bootstrapping, you have to select complete bootstrapping. Start calculation. And for, okay. So here you can see the result of confidence interval and significance of all criteria. Here is HTMT. If you click on HTMT, okay, you can see confidence interval bias corrected for all the HTMT, and also confidence interval for all HTMT. So this is the value of HTMT you can get from from PLS algorithm analysis. But here is lower and upper level of confidence interval. And the interpretation of these values is if these lower and upper level of confidence interval, this range is not included, one. So one doesn't fall in within this range. It means you can establish discriminant validity. If you look at all these values, low and high level of confidence interval, lower and upper level, one is not included in any of these values, right? So you can conclude based on confidence interval, now you can establish discriminant validity.
Prof, can you provide paper for this one?
It's recent paper published by Mark Sarset and his colleague. I don't remember the name, but
because
next
I face the same
citation.
problem because I face the same problem. That's why I'm asking for the paper for justifying this. Thank you.
There is a paper by Marco and his colleague that in detail they discuss using inferential statistic for HTMT instead of threshold 0.85 and 0.9.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Prof, if we use the reflective formative construct in a model, and when we use two-stage approach, do we need to select mode A or mode B, or can we keep it in the automatic mode?
Yeah, you can keep in automatic mode. So when you keep in automatic mode, based on the nature of the second order, software will choose a suitable mode. If it's reflective, we'll choose mode A. If it's formative, we'll choose mode B.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
In the literature in PLS-SEM, according to Gadugan and Lee 2013, there is no such thing called reflective. Sir, please, can you explain why reflective not make sense in PLS-SEM?
Reflective. We have many papers on reflective. But formative reflective doesn't make sense.
Okay, thank you so much.
Prof, may I ask a question? Prof, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Prof, regarding bootstrapping, what I understand, is it just like showing the significant mean score difference between the variables? Bootstrapping, what's the purpose of bootstrapping?
Bootstrapping is to check the significance of all criteria that we actually create in PLS analysis. We need to run bootstrapping. Actually, bootstrapping is a resampling method, and using this resampling method, we actually calculate the significance level of all criteria. So this is the purpose of using bootstrapping. So because of that, PLS-SEM called the non-parametric approach, because actually and can work with non-normal data because of using bootstrapping. Using this resampling method.
So it shows the assumptions whether the resamplings are met or not. Is it so?
Sorry?
Bootstrapping shows the assumptions whether the certain criteria's assumptions are met or not.
Significant. Criteria. The criteria are significant or not. And actually, using bootstrapping, we create more samples. And based on original sample, we create resamples, right? And based on these new samples that are created based on original sample, we calculate significance level of different criteria.
So, thank you very much, sir, for clarification.
Significance of path coefficient, significance of here you can see all criteria. We can calculate significance level.
Thank you very much for clarification, sir.
Okay, no problem. And the last question.
Hello, Prof.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next.
Prof, I have a last question relates to this one. Can we
Okay.
use CTA for like if we have a doubt whether it is we want to confirm the nature of the model, reflective formative? Can we use CTA for this purpose? How reliable is CTA in this case?
CTA is another thing. Yeah, if based on literature you have a contradictory result, contradictory literature, and some literature identify one construct as a reflective construct and another one formative construct, yes, you can apply confirmatory tetrad analysis to identify nature of your construct. But before that, because the CTA or confirmatory tetrad analysis is from a statistical perspective. So from a statistical perspective, check the nature of your construct. But you need support from the literature for nature of your construct.
Means we need to develop our argument based on the theory. Then we can provide the evidence through this CTA, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you very much. I learned a lot, many things. Thank you very much.
Good, good. Thank you very much. Next week, I will discuss mediator and how we can actually create and assess mediator in SmartPLS and what's the different approach to assess mediator. You can watch this video and the video of first session in my YouTube channel. So if you like to watch, please subscribe to my channel, and I will upload this video and other sessions in my channel. Okay, thank you very much. See you all next week.